Hey guys, my name is Rob, and in the last video I talked about the main reasons why I choose to rent instead of buying the home that I live in. But in today I'm going to talk about some of the cons as well, but I'm also going to give you my reasons why I believe that those cons are okay and I'm willing to accept those as well. The three main ones that I'm going to talk about are: number one, rent money is dead money; number two, but you don't own it; and number three is I make money when the value goes up. So I'm going to address all those three kind of pro live in your own home options there, and my reasons why I'm still okay with that. Now, the first one, rent money is dead money, is to an extent, it's true. It is the cost of living. Once I pay that rent out to the landlord, that's it. It's not building my wealth. It's not doing anything in that regard as well. And the thing is, I'm okay with that because to me, that is just the cost of using the consuming, I guess, the product, which for in this instance is a house. Now, the thing that people don't always factor into is that there is also a whole bunch of unfactored costs when it comes to owning a property as well. So interest is probably the biggest one. That's dead money. So that's something that you wouldn't be paying if you were renting. Council rates on a regular basis, that's something that you wouldn't have to pay. The building insurance for the building itself, you don't have to pay if you're renting. Any sort of land tax, depending on where you are, that would not also be payable. The repairs and maintenance of the property, I've kind of talked about it as one of the pros on to renting. It's the same thing. If I own this house and there's something that breaks down or I need to maintain it, then I need to pay for that myself. Whereas as a renter, that is not something that I wouldn't have to pay. But the biggest one is when it comes to moving, there are huge transaction costs that are associated. The big ones are stamp duty, legal, agent fees, and advertising. So these are things that you have to pay every time you buy, every time you sell, and then you buy a property as well. And those things add up to when you're talking in the $1.5 million to $2 million price bracket, or that's the type of homes that I'm looking at and kind of dabbling in. Those costs to transact work out to be roughly $50,000 Australian or so. So that to me is quite a big loss of, I guess, capital or money just from the transaction fees there. So if you take into all those considerations, for me, I've considered those and I don't find it acceptable. Again, those things will change depending on your own situation, on how you live, where you live, how much the value of your property is. So find out if that works out for you, whether the rent money is dead money, which is true, but just making sure that you're factoring in all the unfactored costs of owning your property as well, and just seeing whether that, so if you start homeless, you move into a house, you get to live in it for however long that you're planning to live there. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 20 years, maybe it's 2 years. I tend to move every 2 years. I actually haven't stayed in the same house for more than 2 years in the last 14 years that I've been moving around and I guess fully investing and building my wealth. So for me, if I had to change house, if I was buying and selling a house every 2 years, that would really add up. And so making those adjustments and factoring that in, you see if renting versus buying is going to be better off for you. The second con to renting versus owning is the big one, but you don't own it. I don't own this house. This house that I'm in right now, recording this video, I rent this. I have this office space, but I do rent this and I don't own it. Now, the difference is, what's the difference? It's just purely emotional for me. I believe that it makes no difference that I'm sitting here in this house. I get to use it. I get to sleep in it. I get to enjoy the benefits of the space. I get to enjoy the benefits of the location that it's at. I get to use it to do things like this, making this video. And it does not matter whether I rent it or I own it. To me, that's just a status thing to say whether I own it or rent it. I still get to use it. It wouldn't make any difference. This video has no more or less value, the fact that I rent or own this place. It's just purely an emotional thing. I feel it's in the same boat as I only buy brand new cars. If people who buy brand new cars, sure, you can do it, but that's an emotional choice and you're going to wear a lot of the depreciation for that. But that's another video in itself. But for me, it is an emotional choice. I am totally comfortable in my own skin to live in a house that I don't own because I still get to use it. I'm temporarily here. It suits my lifestyle. I get to still get the benefits of everything that I just listed before, and I pay for that, and that's okay. But for me, if you just want the emotional security that you do own this place, then yeah, that comes at a cost based on what I just spoke about before. There are some transaction costs or unfactored costs of owning. For me, it's not worth paying those costs just to kind of have the emotional collateral to say I do own this home. So I still get to use it whether I own it or I rent it, and that's enough for me. And then the last one is, and this is a biggie, well, if you own the property, then you make money when the value goes up. Now, this is probably the one that's most touchy, and because there's quite a big raging debate about kind of the home that you own and you live in, is that an asset or a liability? And I think Robert Kiyosaki's definition of an asset is something that generates and gives you income versus a liability which kind of draws on money from you. So in his definition, the home that you live in is considered a liability and not an asset. That being said, it does go up in value. Now, I think the biggest important difference that most people miss when it comes to the increase in value is understanding the difference between appreciation in value and inflation of value. And for me is, from my understanding, I mean, I only have a commerce degree, so I should understand these economic concepts. The difference between appreciation is when you purchase something at one level, but you don't really use it at all. It is just a purely investment. So that could be in shares, that could be in a house that you rent out. You could buy it for $1 million, and then in 5 years' time, it goes up to $1.5 million, and you sell it for $1.5 million. Your investment has appreciated by 50%, so $500,000. You get to reap the benefit of that. However, the difference is if you're talking about the house that you do live in, I don't believe it does appreciate in value. It inflates in value. And what I mean by that is, just say I did buy this house for $1 million, and I get to use it, live in it like everybody says, and in the same example, it goes up to $1.5 million, and the value has gone up. So therefore, if I sold it, I would get $1.5 million. It is $500,000 more than I paid for that. The reason why I say that this is inflation versus appreciation is the chances are, if this house, because I've done, let's again, assuming that I've done nothing to physically upgrade this, so I've spent no money to actually improve the home that I own, and it's gone up from $1 million to $1.5 million for, let's say, example, this 6-bedroom home that is within 5 kilometers of the city. Guess how much another 6-bedroom home that is within 5 kilometers of the city is going to cost me? So if I sell this for $1.5 million, yes, it's gone up, and I've got $500,000 more than what I spent in the first place. If I want to maintain the level of lifestyle that I had before, it's going to cost me the same money. It's going to cost me $1.5 million to buy an equivalent house, if not better. Like I'm not going to be able to get a better house, a 50% better house over that time compared to before, because a house that in the past used to be worth $1.5 million has probably also gone up by about 50%. So that's probably now worth $2.2 million. So in that regard, when you buy the home, or I guess from my perspective, if I buy a home for a fixed amount of price, let's say $1 million, that's locking in the lifestyle that I'm choosing to have at this point in time. So as property and value grows across the state, across the country, across the suburb, yes, there's going to be some variances, but they're not going to be that big. And the chances are the entire market has moved with it, especially the ones that are close by or of that quality. So I think it's going to be really difficult to find something that is just as good for the price that you bought it for before. So if you want to maintain your lifestyle, then it's going to cost you just as much as that inflation has occurred. So and then I think the other argument behind that is, okay, I'm going to buy this house for $1 million. Over 5 years, it goes up in value to $1.5 million. I can sell it, and then I'll just buy another house for $1 million. Chances are that $1 million house isn't going to be as good. It's actually going to be worse than what you had before because the market's moved. So therefore, you're taking a cut or a hit or a loss in your lifestyle to realize that extra $500,000. And people, that works quite well for some people. So if they're going to downgrade or they want to move into state, so you could sell your house for $3 million in Sydney and then go and buy something for $1.5 million in Brisbane, which would also be a fantastic home, and you'd have $1.5 million left over in the bank. And that's good on you. That could work for you. If you're okay and you don't personally believe that that's a hit in your lifestyle, then that's okay. Then go for it. That's something that can work well and does work well for a lot of people. But I believe that just the reality of it, or just being honest, that isn't making money. That isn't an appreciation. You've made money because you've chosen to take a hit in your lifestyle. You might not, you might choose that hit or that downgrade is worth it for you because, I'm happy to be paid my $1.5 million for relocating from one state to another because that works for me. But it's about being, I guess, financially honest to realize that that's the only reason why you realize that profit per se, or that growth, was because you were taking a hit in or taking a loss in that lifestyle. The example that I like to use is it's kind of extreme. It's me going out and buying a $300,000 Ferrari, and look, it's great. I've got this Ferrari. I sell it for $290,000, and then I go and buy a $30,000 Corolla, and it's like saying, well, I sold it for $290,000. And I now only spent $30,000 to get another car, but so therefore I've made $260,000 profit. Well, you haven't, because you now drive a Corolla, not a Ferrari. So if you wanted to buy another Ferrari, it's going to cost you just about that much as well. So if you're okay with that loss or that hit, then that's fine. Like I'm not going to force that upon you. And that, again, like I said, that works really well for a lot of people, but it's just about being aware that you're doing that at the cost of your lifestyle. And if you're okay with that, and most people are, then that's okay. But I think it's just being honest and facing the reality that wasn't created equity and wealth that you have realized. It's because you've taken a downgrade in your lifestyle. So hopefully that has helped clarify some of the reasons why I'm okay with some of the cons against renting versus owning my own home. If you found that informative, make sure you check me out for some other videos as well. If you've got some other questions or you wanted some other things clarified, make sure you leave me a comment as well. So until the next video, thanks for watching. Bye.